Finally, we're getting to work on this Honda Pilot. It has been sitting here for about 6 months, and today I've had enough, and I'm bringing it in the shop and I'm taking it apart. Why, you ask? Well, we bought it for a quick flip from a customer, and that was last July. It has transmission issues, so I parked it right here, and it's been sitting ever since. Now, I shot today's video back in January, and this was the first time I'd even started this thing, and I didn't even bother checking the oil. It's a little stuck back in here, back in the cut, and we're going to squeeze back in here, put a jump box on it, and see if she fires up and moves. Oh! Shut up. So loud. Goodness gracious. While the the alarm works. Look, blinking already. Let's go see if this thing starts up, and we're going to move it inside. Oh, if I can get inside of it. Goodness gracious. Woo! I should have filmed that. Damn. Well, it smells interesting in here. It's 265. All right. Now we're working on a 2004 Honda Pilot. Now I know I just moved it, and you're like, well, it's not really a paperweight if you moved it, and that's true. It does move, but it doesn't stay moving long. So what's going on with this transmission? I know I didn't drive it and show you the problem with it, but what it's doing is it was getting hot and it's losing gear. So basically, we're thinking that the filter inside the transmission is getting clogged up. So what we're going to try to do is take it out, put it on the bench, and we're going to take it apart, put a new filter in it, go through all the clutches, make sure the clutches are good. We're basically going to rebuild the whole entire transmission, and hopefully everything will work fine after that. So we're going to go ahead and yank this thing out. I already got most of the top work done. We're going to go ahead and get it the rest of the way out. It is an all-wheel drive, so a little harder to get out than just the basic front wheel drive, but we'll show you. You'll see. Don't worry. Now this vehicle has 265,000 miles on it. And from this badge, we can see the last recorded transmission fluid change was over 100,000 miles ago. No wonder it's gone bad. Now while I love my Hondas, they can have transmission issues. And mostly that's to do with people not changing the fluid. So let's get started on taking this thing out the car so we can open it up and see what's going on inside. Right now I have the air box out of the way, the battery out of the way, and also the battery tray. That frees up a lot of room to get all these connectors off of the top of the transmission. These Hondas have a lot of connectors, and this thing's been together for 20 some years. So these connectors are very hard to get off. But one by one we pry them off, and we're going to see if we can sneak our way into some bell bolts. I think that's it. And then our neutral safety switch. Let me show you that. Now you're probably wondering, how the hell am I going to remember where all this stuff goes? Well, that's kind of why I'm videoing it. Alright, this is where our neutral safety switch plugs up. It actually runs up the back of the unit, back over here. Oh! Woo. Alright, there you go. And there. Back to our regular scheduled program. Now that I got most of the connectors loose, we can start working on these upper bell housing bolts. They're hidden back in there, but I promise they're there. Alright, here we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I told you there was a bolt back there. You didn't believe me, did you? Like, that guy's doing something. Alright, there's another one. Now that I got the upper bell housing bolts loose, the last thing is this upper mount. We gotta take this nut loose off this stud. I already got it loose in this video, so no need to worry about it in this video. Now we're gonna raise the vehicle up, get the tires off of it, get the covers off the front so I can see the transmission nice and clearly, and we're gonna drain the transmission and see how this fluid looks. That's not horrible. Oh. A little bit of metal on that. While the transmission fluid's draining, we're going to go ahead and start working on the suspension. We're going to get the ball joints loose, get the axles out of the hubs, and get the subframe ready to come down so we can get the transmission out. These Mac air hammers, these things, they're stout, man. They're pretty good. Like I said, they're pretty darn good. Watch your fingers in there. Don't do that. Don't try that at home. There's the other one, just to show you how good it is. Might have messed up that ball joint boot, but okay. Look at that. Told you if you want to do this work, get you one of those. It's not a necessity, but it sure does help. The axles loose from the hubs. We got the ball joints loose from the knuckles. Now we're going to start working on this exhaust system. Then we got to get these studs loose from the manifold. These nuts have been on these studs for 265,000 miles, so they're a little rusty. We're going to see if the 3/8's going to get them off, but I have a feeling we're going to have to break out that 1/2-inch snap-on. Alright, we got a bigger gun. Oh, of course this one's gonna be. Never mind. Alright, now this is the part you don't need to try though. Okay, so let me explain. Usually you can just take the two flanges out by unbolting it from this cat right here, but the nuts and the studs at that cat were pretty rusted. So I decided not to even mess with those, and right now I'm going through with some WD-40 and a pry bar, and I'm prying off the rubber hangers off the exhaust brackets that bolt to the car. And by doing this, we're just going to drop the whole exhaust system all the way back to the tailpipe. And just a little bit of WD-40, like I said, and some pry bars, you'll get these rubber mounts off. And this whole system is going to drop right out of the car. And it's just going to be all one piece. Woo! See what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta lay that pipe down. Now we're taking loose the rear drive shaft that attaches to this all-wheel drive transfer case we're going to unbolt. So as I said earlier, an all-wheel drive vehicle makes it a little harder to remove the transmission. And on this case, it kind of does. There's a few extra steps. This is one of the extra steps that we have to take to get the all-wheel drive transmission out. Damn it. So once the bolts are out, just a little bit of pry bar work and a little bit of muscle and strength, and this thing will pop right off of the transmission, and you can pull it right down. And it's not that big of a unit, and it's honestly not that heavy. Makes it one extra step, but honestly, it's not as bad as other all-wheel drive transmissions. Oh, there it is. The last thing I always do before taking the subframe down is get the torque converter bolts out. I find it's more safe to turn the crank with the motor still supported by the subframe. This Pilot has 6 10mm torque converter bolts. As you can see, they're not very hard to get to, and they're not that hard to break loose. So it's a pretty easy job to get these out. Okay, here comes the big part of the job. We have to get the whole front subframe out of the car so we can free up the transmission to come down out of the car as well. So what we are using here is a transmission jack with an old 4x4 wood block, and we're just balancing the subframe on it and lowering it down little by little, making sure nothing's hanging up, making sure that everything is being supported well. And we also don't have any engine hanger on top of the engine. We do have one upper mount and one stand, and we're going to have to use another stand to get this subframe out from around the stand that's supporting our motor. So we have to play a little bit of stand shuffle, if you will, to get this subframe out from around that stand. As you can see, it's obviously not going to come out while it's supporting that motor. So we get another red stand in here, and we put it underneath the transmission to support the powertrain. There's an upper mount on the passenger side of the motor. It's holding that motor in. We just need to hold the other side up. As you see here, we had a sway bar get hung up there. We're bringing it down anyway. We're going to set it on the ground, get another stand underneath the transmission, and then that way we can remove our stand underneath our motor, move our subframe back, and put the stand back underneath the motor to support it, and then get a transmission jack underneath of it. Is it a perfect system? By no means. No, it's not a perfect system. But does it work? Oh, yes, it very well does work. And, you know, it doesn't take me that long to get the transmission out. But if you have a better system, comment it and let me know below, and I'll see if I can try it on the next video. So we went ahead and removed our axles, and we have the subframe out of the vehicle, so now we can go ahead and just drop this transmission down out of it. It's pretty simple once you get to this point, just a few more bell housing bolts. We pretty much have everything else loose. We're just going to let the pressure off the jack and let it come on down. Make sure nothing's hanging up. There's a lot of connectors, a lot of transmission lines, so you have to be very careful not to break any of that stuff when you're letting this thing out of the vehicle. Also a few ground wires and some other stuff. But let's go ahead and get this thing on the bench, get it taken apart, and see what's going on inside. What do you think, Mabel? Huh? What do you think? You don't care? Yeah, got a little bit of a mess. Ooh, that flew really sharp, boy. Woohoo! And you got to stand on the bench. Pull this gear off. We don't care. No one likes us. We don't care. No one likes us. We don't care. No one likes us. All right, back to the pry bars. Oh, man. With the case apart, I could finally start trying to identify a problem. Turns out this transmission had several. There were some worn clutches in the drums, a worn torque converter clutch, and this was all causing a lot of debris to flow throughout the transmission. This debris caused problems when the transmission got really hot and the valve body got a little stuck. This had some shifting issues, some rough shifts, some neutral and out, some flare ups. So we're going to put a new clutch kit in it with some new seals for the shafts and the drums. We're also going to go through the entire valve body. And we might even take a peek inside the converter. We'll save all that for the next video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Comment, let me know how I'm doing. And whatever you do, make sure you work hard and stay dirty doing it. And for me, you can just call me Eddie.